Hiya Ben, subject to your question. First thing, as I mentioned in the message on Facebook, don't get the upper centre out in front of the lower centre. This is simply achieved by you pushing the hips forward or the pelvis forward a little bit more. If you look at your lesson recap from, I think it was your very first visit, it's something we discussed. I placed my hand against your left shoulder and asked you to move the weight forward using the pelvis. So that would be initially something that you'd want to address. I like the way that you lean into that left leg for reasons that we've discussed in the past, but I also need to make sure that this right hip doesn't become too visible compared to the left hip. So it looks like the hips are screwed back a little bit and they want to be pushed forward. So pelvis towards the target a little bit more, which in turn would, rather than creating this sort of side bend towards the target, create a little bit of a side bend away from the target. From there, you're asking me to look at the differences between the actual swing and the swing that we see here on the right, which is you doing the drill, where I've asked you to really focus on the lead leg flexing forward. We know that the inward movement of lead leg we haven't got an issue with, but we lack this forward movement on occasion. So obviously in this instance you're really trying to max out the pieces. So what we're going to see is, as you start to move away, we're going to see more of a left shoulder down, left knee flexing forward look at P2. Looks like there's a lot more mass target side. Upper centre still pretty stable. Trail leg is straightening at a higher rate. Trail knee is also pointing out rather than kinking in a little bit. That's only a minor issue. It's not something you couldn't make work. As you then go to P3, we start to see that lead knee sort of kicking in more on the left, flexing forward much more on the right. And you know, we can see that on the right we've got this little bit of an exaggerated move towards the target. It's not an issue. Here we've got a little bit of a drift off it. All we've identified here is that if the lead leg flexes more, that puts the left tilt in there when viewed from down the line, or helps put the left tilt in, or the side flexion, which is why the left shoulder's working down more. When those two pieces are maxed out, you'd expect to see the player moving towards the target a little bit, as per you on the right hand image. Top of the backswing on the left, nothing offensive about that. You have drifted off a little bit. Trail leg straightened, lead knee is flexed. If the lead knee flexed more, the lead shoulder will go down more. The upper centre would drift forward slightly, and as a result the upper COG will be more in its original place. So you can see that by adding the move that we see on the right, you know, that how much of that move depends on, you know, how far we're moving off it. Is this on the right correct? Not really. It's correct in regards to what feels it's going to encourage, or what moves it's going to encourage, and what feels it's going to create. So does your swing on the left need elements of this on the right? 100%. And what am I seeing? I'm seeing a trail leg that's straightening more. I'm seeing a lead knee that's flexing forward more. There still is a little bit of inward movement. I haven't got a major problem with that. That's to do with the hips turning. I'm seeing more of a slant on the hips. I'm seeing more of a left sort of shoulder down situation. So again, you know, it's not a proper shot, it's not a full swing, but you're encouraging the right moves. That movement of the left knee really helps things, or helps tidy up the overall picture, and it's certainly something that you need more of. The more left knee flex you have, the more trail leg straightening you have, the more left shoulder down you have, the more centered the top of the backswing is, and the better the tilts will be when viewed from down the line. When we look at it through the ball, hanging on to the lead knee flex a little bit, hanging on to the flex in the pelvis a little bit as well. So we've got that little bit of flexion remaining, certainly in the knees. More than the pelvis now, to be fair, Ben. I mean, you've done enough work on the extension. You know the pieces that you need to put in there. If I run this one through, the feeling that you described, or the sensation that you described when you're in that position, is that you can just spring up. As per the drill, you have to. You've gone into the ground more, so you can spring up more. If you didn't, you'd bury the club straight in the ground, and you'd have the deepest divots on the planet. You'd be able to break your ankle in them divots. So from there now, you're going to start springing up. And the biggest difference in those two positions would be, obviously, the flex in the pelvis has diminished slightly, but the biggest difference is in the knees. So if you're looking at the position on the left versus the position on the right, the biggest difference is that movement of the knees. So if you watch this now, boom, all the knee flex goes out of it. Push up, tuck the hips, raise the belt, straighten the legs, extend, frame it however you like. Biggest difference there is the movement of the knees. We need more. That player on the left needs more of this. If you look at the extension, the neck and the thoracic, the upper spine extends, the mid spine extends, but it's mainly the lower body. Both knees springing up, straightening up through the hip. Hope that sheds a little bit of light on your question about the differences between the drill and the actual. Again, it's that knee linkage that's important. If you get that in there, you'll get the desired look and the results.